Hello everyone, this is Chase Pounds. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about also as a tribute to Black History Month. I'm going to be discussing about I guess in some cases not very known incident in American history, in African American history, known as the Tulsa race riot. Now I myself am familiar with this event, and I actually did a report on it. Well, I should say I seen several documentaries of this that tells this events over the years. The first being I first heard this incident was when I was in high. Well, it was I should say during the summer of 2013, around Father's Day, I watched a documentary called Hidden Colors, and it references the Tulsa Massacre, where it mentions that it was a thriving community of successful Black people. And unfortunately, though, it was cut short. The thriving success was I should say was halted when a white mob descended on the town and burned it to the grounds. And they said that many of the streets that said that many they referenced the singing group the Gap Band, that it was named that the word Gap was named after the streets where the riot took place. Archer, Pincher, I think it was Greenwood, Greenwood, Archer, Pincher were the names of the street, and that's where I first heard about the Tulsa Massacre. The second time I heard about was again in high school. I watched another documentary on PBS. It was narrated by the great historian Henry Jr. Gates. And the documentary was called African American Seven Rivers to Cross, which tells the black perspective of, or I should say chronicles the black experience through slavery, through Reconstruction, all of the Jim Crow, up to civil rights, up to more recent years. And it also references during the turn of the century, when it talks, well, I should say during the World War I period, during the early years, during the I guess at the height of Jim Crow era, it referenced the Tulsa Massacre, and that was a driving city that was again cut short due to the descending white mob that burned the town at the grounds, and many people were killed. And those are some documentaries I've seen. Now, also my favorite documentary series, In Search of Histories. Also referenced. I should say, had a documentary about the Tulsa Massacre and the events and the aftermath. I should say, of the But when I was also in high school, I did a report on the Tulsa Massacre during my junior year of high school for Black. It was actually for Black History Month. I tried to audition for the audition to give, like I should say, a like a speech, a written speech, or I should say a written report about the Tulsa Massacre. But unfortunately, the thing that the event didn't really match the theme of the Black History Month. It was mostly about the Harlem Renaissance. So that, well, even though it was set around the same time as the Tulsa Massacre was set around technically during the same time as the Harlem Renaissance, it was, I guess, still a little irrelevant. Though it turns out that I could have did a report on the Harlem Renaissance. There what happened to be a Spanish Harlem riot, I should say, in 1935. I could have did that, but I didn't have any knowledge of it. But anyway, before I discuss the Tulsa Massacre, I should say it begins really I guess you have to go back all the way to the end of slavery, post-Civil War, known as Reconstruction. As I was taught in school, Reconstruction was when, after the Civil War, the South was physically built as well as politically built. Built where there was attempts to try to get attempts to get black people the right to vote, particularly. Also, you're familiar with the 40 acres and the mule, the surplus. I think that was the the 40 acres and the mule, which was to give blacks land and livestock as well. But but I should say, this was it was also on voting rights, voting rights and the 40 acres a mule, in trying to gain black citizenship. But unfortunately, as events would occur, events were set in motion, such as with the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, and where the next president, Lyndon Johnson, would take over. This was this early attempt to give blacks give black civil rights was unfortunately was cut short, as the Southern Democrats at the time were trying to overturn laws. Well, they're trying to establish laws that denied black citizenships, and again, in a way, kept them as slave status, such as coming up with black codes, black codes or laws to try and to incarcerate mass numbers of blacks, as well as coming up with tactics of denying blacks the right to vote, such as literacy tests, poll tax, grandfather clause, as those methods to keep blacks from voting, as well as intimidation with the newly formed Ku Klux Klan that was started in Pulaski, Tennessee, but eventually the organization would spread popularity in other parts of the South, where where the Klan attacked and killed blacks, as well as liberal northern whites that came down the South to help to try to also help progress the South in helping blacks gain citizenship and rights and freedom and equality. As unfortunately, that was also cut short, as many whites were chased out or again attacked or chased out or terrorized, intimidated, kind of halting efforts to try and to gain citizenship, freedom, and equality for blacks. And with that Reconstruction was cut ended unfortunately cut short. The little progress that was done, and following that, Jim Crow laws were set up, which 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 Jim Crow laws were meant to segregate blacks from establishments that were held by whites, and that became a system for about 100 years. Then at the same time as Jim Crow laws were set up, there's also a rise in acts of violence. Lynching became prevalent is a way of showing white supremacy and still making blacks as inferior slaves, as a way of also intimidating blacks from trying to get ideas of trying to gain any type of success. Despite this, there were a lot of thriving communities during this period, during the turn of the century, such as you had the Wilmingtons, North Carolina. There was a very progressive and thriving black community. Unfortunately, it was also this is prior to the Tulsa Massacre. It was a similar case where a white mob. It was during a tense election that whites were again trying to keep blacks down by not down from blacks down as and trying to keep them from voting. And with this, they used intimidation and acts of violence, where they sitting on the town. They I should say burned. I think it was they burned the town and they killed a lot of blacks. I'm not sure the exact number of blacks that were killed, but this is an early example of early race massacres during the turn of the century. And this was also in cases with other cities such as Atlanta. There was a race riot, and this is after following a play called The Klansman. Hit was shown in theaters, where which the Klansman was about the Ku Klux Klan, which depicts them as being saviors during the post-Civil War era, even though in reality that was false. They weren't. But this, I guess, I forget how the riot got started, but this angered a lot of the blacks. And again, some of them retaliated. This the version of the story, how it occurred. Others occurred, but in 1906 in Atlanta there was a race riot where I think blacks were whites came in and attacked the black community, and they burned the people who were in the streetcars. They locked people in the streetcars, and they burnt the streetcars, the people in the streetcars. Then 2 years later, there was another race riot in Springfield, Illinois, and with this led to following the wake of this riot, this actually led to based on what I read on different sources on the internet that it's led to the development of the NAACP the following year, following the wake of the Springfield riot. In 1910, during when Jack Johnson won the White Hope Championship, there was a series of race riots, including my hometown of St. Louis. Then, as you get into World War I, things begin to change. Well, serious things takes place. It's actually, I think, it's due to a film. I should say the whole these leading events lead up to. I think it's responsible. I think how I should say it is what leads up to these events, in my opinion, is a film called Birth of a Nation. Some of you may have heard of it, and that it's actually based off this play called Klansman. Klansman, and it's called Clans. It's called based on the theater play Klansman. It was loosely based on the theater play Klansman, where a Klansman, where it again is about it depicts the Ku Klux Klan as saviors against white womanhood of black people, from blacks being raping, from white womanhood from being raped by savage blacks, which that's what the film depicts, and it I should say demoralizingly depicts blacks as savages, as beasts, is, I guess, a danger to society, which the people that played the blacks were really white people. They weren't actually blacks. It was a standard back then it was a common thing back then where blacks, it was known as blackface or minstrelsy, where whites would try to with dark makeup make their faces black and portray and try to act black, act in demeaning stereotypes that always were thought in the white community, which were, of course, were inaccurate, but it was common at that time and accepted. And this film has always created controversy even to this day. It's hardly ever shown on TV. I never really seen the movie myself, but the film actually during this time period brings a resurgence of the Ku Klux Klan. There's really three phases that the Ku Klux Klan appeared throughout history. The first one was, again, as I said, during Reconstruction, post Civil War era.